I know, I'm late. Welcome to part 4 of the Divine Journey 2 experience. If you're by any chance new, I'll just put a tag up in that corner to the first one so you can get caught up. We last left off becoming the Lorax to ascend to Moon Godhood, gaining new soil types, new spells, and early game flight. Now we're gonna drop all that environmentalism and moon worship to cause pollution for basic lighting and factory lines. Industrialism, my beloved. I have finally reacquired my focus candy and can now return to this beauty of a mod pack. I'd talk more, but I've kept you waiting long enough. Sit back, relax, and get ready to enjoy inhaling sawdust. Also, consider hitting that like and sub button. If we hit 100,000 subs by the end of the year, I will play Gretcheck New Horizons to completion. Or don't. I mean, hey, you do you. I'm not your mom. Let's pick up where we last left off. Day 107. Finally, no hiccups upon world start. Let's just start by getting the member and comments board knocked out. Special thanks to our new members, Vaspera, hello my friend, Majin151, F-Sun, the Crying Moon, and Rishish Jane 35, and you were worried I wasn't gonna get you on the list. Thanks to all you members for keeping the lights on, and I think it's rather impressive to have this many of you on the wall this soon. A friendly reminder that you do get a dedicated chat and role in my Discord server if you wish to use it, and your name will remain up here whether you continue being a member or not. Link into the Discord down below. Now, onwards to the comments. Our member Final Cakes informed me that the buffalo may have been hunted down by a bunch of boners because apparently they do that. My hatred for the Calcium Crusader grows by the day. Joseph Conover told me that pigmen also apparently get aggroed from me mining their ores. That's fair. I'd also be pretty pissed if I saw a homeless man ransacking my backyard for a couple rocks. Our member and a friend of mine, Miyagi Bite, said that jump cutting to the mountain being demolished made him choke on boba tea. Oh, buddy. If you only knew what was going to happen this video. And lastly, Shulker Sensor said that they loved the Roots Radiance spell and it helped them through Twilight Forest among other mods. Duly noted. I'll look into it and see if it's a thing I can do. Thank you all for your comment contributions, and feel free to leave a comment down below if you want to make it onto this board. I love reading your comments, I don't know what to say. Now, since I've spent a chunk of our day doing this, I suppose I can continue removing the mountain and start an industrial journey on the next day. The flight spell definitely expedited the process if the sudden chunk of missing stone didn't make that apparent. Once that approached, I slept a day away until day 108, which is where I cracked open our quest book to see what we gotta do. Oh, sweet, we forgot a reward. Pretty sure I stumbled upon this last time. Something tells me I'm gonna fall for this more than once. Never mind then. Interesting quest book omissions aside, it appears we have a lot we gotta do in the immersive engineering chapter. But this ain't my first rodeo to a lengthy chapter in a mod pack. Starting off, we are working towards our first power source, a water wheel. A certified classic. Though it requires treated wood planks, and while I have no issue crafting this material right now, I figured I'd spend today just absolutely stockpiling untreated planks, which as it turns out was a big-brained idea. First step, into the hole, where I've abandoned any sort of strip mining and just started vein mining recklessly. Earth be damned, I want coal. Lots of it. Tons of it. I then forget I already had like 700 in my dank knoll. So I warped back home, leaving the earth destroyed for really no reason, totally never done that before. Moving on, I plopped the coal in our coke furnace, crafting a new Ender IO fluid tank while waiting, only to realize that the quest tank had more space than the Ender tank. Huh. Ah, well, I'm sure it has more potential use down the road. It at least got a quest done. After I was done emptying the quest tank to be used for mass lava extraction from my smelter, I used a lot of our creosote to mass produce treated wood. After which, I crafted it into water wheel bits to make our first water wheel. Quest completed! Now to snooze until the next day. Day 109. I wake up to the sweet, sweet fumes of our coke furnace. You know what they say, what doesn't kill you is probably a hospital visit on a later date. Anyways, now that we got the water wheel, we need to make a kinetic dynamo, which turned today into mostly a crafting day. We first needed copper wire coils, which when trying to make the strips, I realized that my dark shears for some reason did not count as shears to make the strips. Okay. I crafted the coils, which completed half of a quest where we needed wire connectors, which requires terracotta. Gotta smelt that up real quick. I then went to craft one, thought I was done, turns out I can't count and we need two. Goofed the recipe, mistaking real might for copper, bastard, got copper, made the connector, and now we completed the quest. Which moves us on to the kinetic dynamo, which requires steel plates. We got steel, but not really enough for me to feel comfortable with mass crafting the steel plates yet, so I magnumed all my iron into this beaut of a smelter, then started pouring it into ingots. While we wait, I dove into the stinky hole to get our tank stored up with lava. Figured I may as well pass the time. When I got back, I refilled our smeltery and spent the rest of the day clearing the mountain while we waited for iron, ending day 109 and rolling us into day 110. Alright, time for us to dump off some iron into our blast furnace. Since this will take a bit, I continue clearing the mountain, and may I say, it's sort of satisfying to see most of it knocked out now. I mean, sure, there's floating ores, we'll grab those soon, but still. After clearing more out, I checked on our steel, and yep, I kind of forgot how slow this is. I should probably look into making more than one steel processing blast furnace. For now though, we do get enough for me to feel comfortable making the dynamo, crafting that, and completing the coinciding quest, right at the start of day 111. Make a wish! Anyways, you'd think I'd start working on power, but after seeing that steel processing speed, I remembered something. Our base was not made chunk-aligned, meaning I am playing with fire, basically, if I plan on expanding the production line of steel, because in case you forgot, you can corrupt your world if you build a coke furnace or blast furnace on a chunk border. We don't want that. So, let's do what we need to do before we continue. The whole day was spent shrinking down the room to a replica of Harry Potter's closet, ensuring it remained chunk-aligned in the future. This process went pretty much into a chunk of the morning of day 112. But now, we can safely say this won't be a problem in the future. Granted, I, remember to check the chunk placement when I build new rooms. Anyways, I spent the first half of the day actually crafting this mod's version of a battery to store the energy. It was kind of a process. I didn't have much copper left, so the smelter was put to work, and I also yoinked whatever steel was done in the blast furnace during all of that. After some mass crafting of copper plates, then copper wire bits, I jammed them into a coil and the battery was made. Next was to find a spot for our water wheels, which I knew of a spot, but it's taken up by the stinky building that's still here, so I spent the rest of the day removing it from this mortal plane. Day 113. Time for the big moment. The moment in every mod pack that changes everything. Place the battery where we want it in our base, take our dynamo, the water wheel, bam and boink, set up water flow, forget about crafting the wire relay, craft that before you look more stupid than you already are, place those down, connect that shit, and with all those steps, we have finally obtained power. Oh my god, does it feel good to finally have machines in my life. I spend the rest of the day prepping more spots for water wheels because I figured down the line maybe having a massive water wheel power generation line might, come in handy. Renewable infinite power may not provide much, but it sure does cover your ass when things go sideways. Hey, this is future bottom dweller. These power generators are going to pale in comparison to another we'll run into. Just, thought I'd let you know. I document these days as I go, so knowledge is only known when I find out about it in my playthrough, so just putting it out there. We'll figure it out later. That wraps up this amazing day. Day 114, let's consult the quest book to see our next steps. There's a number of things we can do. For one, we can make a charger for charged items. I don't have a charged item at this current moment, so I don't see much utility in that, but good to know. The next one I ogled, though, seemed quite interesting. A machine that powers our furnaces without us using fuel. Considering, just how much marble I'm going to have to smelt for this building, this would be nice. My sights have been set, though I do see we're short on copper, completely forgetting that I'd already made a ton of copper on the prior day, as a whole night's sleep happened between then and now. I spent today clearing up the ore bits from my mountain for the copper that was readily available. I then shoved it into the smelter, checked the chest, and felt utterly stupid for wasting the day on that. However, by the end of the day, the new machine was made, and I forgot the name of it. Future me, edit it in. Thanks. I ran into a new problem at the beginning of day 115. You see, relays don't actually provide an input, they only go through, and I can currently only do direct inputs and outputs, so we gotta solve that problem. Let me do a bit of Googling real quick. Don't question how my computer works in this alleyway without a keyboard and mouse, it's not important. Urethra! We need hammer to make battery have more output slot. After crafting a couple more input-output wire deals, I used the hammer on the side of our battery, and we finally powered the furnaces. Which is awesome, yet as these adventures go, solutions bring new problems. It is consuming way more power than I can produce. Luckily, I already planned around this. We'll tackle it in the morning. Day 116, time to start making another water wheel. Obviously, we can't rely on this forever, as stated prior, but it's all we got for now. I crafted another dynamo, set up a wheel, electrocuted myself a few times, but as the famous saying goes, electrocution builds character, so long as it, doesn't kill you. Alternatively, it can also awaken something in a person, but this ain't the site for that sort of discussion. Jokes aside, this new water wheel actually stops our furnace from burning through our energy entirely, so that problem is solved. Went ahead and tossed in some marble, then moved on to the next steps. Blueprints. Really easy to make, actually. We need specifically two for the quests, metal press and crafting components. I knocked both out in the same sitting, completing a quest and ending an otherwise productive day. Day 117, after seeing the recipes for the crafting components we need, I realized that I still do not have enough metal, particularly iron, so I spent the whole day in the hole. And while we're here, I suppose it's time for the episodic chat with you guys. First off, sorry this video took so long to happen. Not being medicated does things to a caveman. Things such as not having enough focus to sit down and play something long term, nor have a coherent thought. It feels good to be back, and hopefully my medication doesn't vanish from my life again anytime soon. On another note, I'm thinking about making a video about what transpired because the story as to how I got my meds was a comedically frustrating one. So keep an eye out for that, maybe. I don't know. Even more so, I'm not sure if it's a main channel video or a second channel one, so I'd check both just to be safe. Also, here's a shameless reminder to like and sub. Back to locking in. I rise from our mining trip, and I dump our stash. Started making electrum alloy for future recipes and found 2 Cyclops proving my point about awakening something in themselves with the wires. Kinda wish my walls were finished. They, you know, would have had privacy. Anyways, next day. Day 118, not a very productive day. Poured out the electrum, went to melt down the iron that we got yesterday, and I mass crafted some components in the engineering table to complete a quest real quick while thinking of a game plan. The next steps are some basic machines to get operations running. Only problem is this room doesn't really have a lot of space currently for big machines, on account of it being a place for cursed people. So I'm probably going to need to add to the cube despite not having finished the current room. Gotta do what we gotta do to finish this chapter. And I don't want this room getting too cluttered with machines when we need space for drawers and storage. I slept for the rest of the day away, of which the next bit will probably be a time skip as I finish build. I don't even know what to say. That took far longer than I expected it to. I not only finished the second room finally, but I opted to finish building the room we'll be keeping our technology in. Yes, more tech than IE, because this room is massive. I made it a point at the very start that I didn't want a lawn base if I could help it, and let this room be a testament to me meaning my word. I had to upgrade my flight spell to prevent fall damage as the height nearly killed me several times. I had Bricky's Warhammer stuff on during most of this, especially Adeptus Ridiculous, big fan of the podcast, and a whole night of IRL sleep transpired somewhere in between. Also, there's a third water wheel now. If I didn't get the third water wheel, the furnace would only be able to power 2 furnaces at a time, and that'd easily double the time required. I also did the math for you. This took 7 hours, so if there's ever a delay between episodes going forward, just presume I'm doing something stupid again. Next day. Day 134. Alright, back to making some progress. We need to make a metal press. This is because it reduces the resource cost of metal plates, and given the fact that we used an alarming amount of plates, this is appreciated. However, before we begin this process, I dove into the nether for cobalt and came out with more on top of a ton of iron. Needed cobalt for sharpening kits. Better to get it while I'm thinking about it. I warp back home, locate our tome, it rhymes, and we see our first multi-block structure that isn't just a 3x3 cube for this mod. We need several bits, such as conveyor belts, redstone engineering blocks, steel frames, you get the gist. This is gonna be a lot to tackle, but the payout is gonna be great when we can just use our existing power systems to make metal plates instead of having to craft like 400 hammers. I also forgot to mention that I at one point mass melted a bunch of one of the components needed to create redstone machine blocks, which if you want to know how that's made, you just smelt stone as if you're trying to make smooth stone in current MC versions. Not hard nor worth noting. I crafted our first pieces being the conveyor belts and the redstone machine block, then head off to Sleepy Time Junction. Day 135. I immediately kick our day off crafting the other components and blindly look for the pistons I dug up when clearing out that no longer existent building, which completes the quest before I build the machine. I then put it together, rotate a piston around haphazardly, and voila! A metal press. This will help tremendously as we progress through the rest of the quest line. That, or as a functional femur breaker should we need it. Something tells me that nether mobs from Divine RPG could use a visit. It doesn't make progress towards the end, but it does have the cost of crafting plates, wires, rods, and it's how we get gears. That being said, it's pretty obviously slow, so the intention was likely that we made multiple for different components. But I'm gonna be honest. This is fast enough for me right now. I'm sure we'll probably need more as we go deeper into the crafting layers, but for right now this will do. Also, having conveyor belts, kinda sick. Day 136 through 137. Another time skip coming up. I ogled the recipe for the crusher, which we need in order to make more progress on the quest line, then saw it needed 10 light machine blocks, which requires an alarming amount of iron to do. All good, just means we got a good old-fashioned mining trip on us. I dug around in my hole for a while, finding tons of metals and clearing a dungeon right at the end of day 137, of which I dropped off my metal into the smelter, and I'm going to presume the next day will be a lot of melting. Day 138. Yep. Well, not entirely. I did spend the downtime of breaking down the iron making the radiant spell I was told about. Fortunately, we already had everything to make it, so it was pretty much just the same process as making the flight spell. Only catch is I ogled the modifiers, and you can apply Wither on cast. Sign me up! That is going to make a lot of fights trivial. Stacked on top of this, I got a modifier to teleport XP and drops to me. So not only am I able to use heavy ordnance on a newborn, I can now get its charred remains from a mile away. Also, gas are a thing of the past now. As the day went on with me making this, a good amount of iron was drained out, so on the next day, I should be able to start crafting the components to the crusher. Day 139. This whole day was literally crafting. I had to craft a number of things, starting off getting the chests and plates required to make the 9 hoppers, followed by 10 light engineering blocks, another redstone engineering block, 10 steel frames, and 9 rather inefficiently priced steel fences. This, of course, completing the quest and getting us a windmill and windmill sails. I figured it was better to, grab the sails than the dynamo I know how to craft already. I then spent a bit of time putting it all together well into the start of day 140, where we kick off the day with a built crusher. Only problem was I ran out of terracotta a while back, so now I gotta get more clay. Shouldn't be too bad, but hey, you know me, uncontested king of the world's shittiest roll gen luck. Fortunately, didn't strike me here. I got plenty. Smelted some terracotta, made some more relays, then mag dumped a chunk of our coal coke right in. We needed coke dust in order for us to complete a quest, of which we do in the same day. Onto the next machine, which despite how it looks is not nearly bad metals-wise, though we do have to wait. I have a windmill and I want to use it. We need wires and plates for another dynamo, the press making this a lot easier. If I didn't spend a concerning amount of time ramming myself betwixt 2 wires with an alarmingly large hitbox, just because I like tech mods doesn't mean I'm remotely smart. Anyways, I placed the chest and hopper wrong like a caveman, give up, and then proceed to do it manually anyways. It's okay, I discover my goof up eventually, but for now, point and laugh it past me. For now, I'm just gonna drop this entire stack on the belt and wait it out. Day 141. Ignoring the fact I placed ingots and not plates to make the wires, I make the quick adjustment and then wait out the process, after which taking them, making wires into a coil, and scrounging up another kinetic dynamo. Time for a windmill! Which took the entire day because I have 2 neurons and don't understand that falls kill me unless I've flown recently. I eventually end up succeeding in making the windmill, applying the sails, and now we have a rather questionably structured windmill. We'll make it look nice later. I just wanted wind power. Thanks to this wind turbine, though, we can actually use all of our furnaces without going net negative on our energy. Day 142. Alright, time to journey towards making a squeezer. Footage became a little corrupted by me fat fingering the record button, not the save replay button in OBS, but to summarize today, I made the barrels from IE and the pipes required to make the squeezer, but we actually need more steel and our coal coke reserves are running low, due in part of the Ender IO tank not storing nearly enough creosote oil. Because if you don't know, creosote oil, if it's completely full in the coke furnaces, stop the coke furnaces from making coke. So I mass craft treated planks to not waste the oil and get the coal coke furnace running again and got the blast furnace started. Since we're going to be waiting on steel, I might as well finish clearing up the mountain for the next day or so. Day 143. This is day 1 of the mountain clearing process. Normally I'd just, time skip as usual, but today is a momentous occasion because the random floating rubble has finally mostly been cleared out. All the hard to reach pieces have been wiped out, and all that remains are the bits that are floating near the rest of the mountain, or, the rest of the mountain. I learned something while making the new cube room. It's better to mine a mountain top to bottom after segmenting it from the floor than bottom to top with vein mine. So for the rest of the mountain, I will be applying this knowledge, but let this flattened earth be a monument to Boot Corp. Anyways, moment aside, the time skip continues. Days 144 through 146. Alright, so mostly chores were done in this time skip, so let's speedrun through all of them. I cleared even more mountain and now we have a beautiful view. I did a bunch of drawer upgrades, which weirdly completed the quest. Seems the mod pack just sort of forgot I already had several of these things, but fine, okay, it's whatever. I also melted down a lot of metal. Very productive days, but also not really worth talking about. Much like this show. Also, if you want to know what I was watching during all of this, I was watching Michael Reeves eating dogs at the catapult, but that's not important, so let's move on. Day 147, squeezer. Starting off, we press our steel into rods and plates. No, I still don't see a problem with this slow process. No, I won't expand right now. Everything is fine. Craft these steel frames, realize I don't have enough copper plates, press those as well. So, how's the wife? Make engineering blocks, grab what blocks I had left over from the crusher. And now to build it. I struggled for a while though, because if you didn't know, IE requires you to click a very specific block in a specific way on the machine for it to work. It's probably the single worst detail of this entire mod, and it left me confused for a little longer than I'd like to admit, but now we can squeeze things into a pulp. Probably going to be useful for the rest of the quest line. Alright, using the squeezer, we need to make the plant oil, which requires, seeds. Kinda wish I didn't throw those out earlier. It's fine though, we have plenty. Plant oil acquired, and because I'm blind, I now realize I actually need to build a fermenter to move forward on the quest line. Also graphite. I made the graphite at the end of the day. You just shove coke dust into a squeezer and it's done. I then made another Ender IO tank to get the plant oil from the squeezer, though this does mean we need to, again, get more steel and whatnot. We'll handle it later. Day 149, we will spend solving our power problem. As it turns out, our current setup is not producing nearly enough energy. Luckily, thermoelectric energy is an answer. This generator takes a cold thing from one side and a hot thing from another to create power. However, while we have the Yellorium blocks, we do not have the Pax Ice, which is the coldest source on this book, so we gotta make a Silk Touch pickaxe and head out to the tundra. This whole day was spent making the pick. The Silk Touch modifier is actually not that bad to craft, it just takes a bit of gold surrounded by string to craft one of the components. We do that 4 times, take an emerald, craft the modifier. The rest of the day was then just spent making the the Silk Touch tool bits, ending the day with the components but no pick built yet. Day 150, pick. Modifier, adventure for ice. I set our compass for the ice spike plains, which is 3,000 blocks away. Normally I'd be annoyed, but thanks to our trusty flight spell, we actually made this trip in a single day. I mined an unhealthy amount of both packed and regular ice for the rest of the daylight that remained. Packed ice we know why I'm grabbing, but I got regular ice to sort of prepare myself for when we need regular ice for a quest. We don't need it yet, but I have a feeling it'll be soon. I returned home as my inventory was full and nighttime was in full swing. Day 151. Alright, now that we have that, let's get MV power, starting by smashing electrum into plates, then wires. We need these in order to make a couple MV capacitors. We make some more LV capacitors to finish the recipe for MV capacitors, eventually acquiring them and completing the MV capacitor quest, which gives us a free transformer. We set up the transformer in the MV battery right at the start of day 152. One teeny tiny problem though, it appears that using LV wires to connect to a transformer to convert into a medium power output actually fries the LV wires, so we're probably going to have to figure out a solution. Actually, you know what, never mind, it wasn't that hard to figure out. We just had to concentrate our power into an LV capacitor that would then output it into a transformer, which then allows us to store it as MV power. Now we focus on making the thermoelectric generator. We got the materials, we just need to make Constantin and a vacuum tube. Constantine? DC drunkard Constantine? Dumb joke aside, it's not horribly difficult to make either of those things. First we do the tube, which takes nickel and Invar plates, specifically orange glass, and a copper wire. After that, we alloy copper and nickel together for Constantin. We mash the Constantin into the plates, and like that, we have a TE generator. We surround it with yellowite, ignoring the potential radiation sickness, then packed ice connected to our power system, and we are now producing an actually usable amount of power. Maybe I'll replace the water wheel section with just a bunch of these. Maybe that's better for us, I don't know. As per usual, I stress test the power with our furnaces, and not only can we now power all of them, but it's highly likely we can actually have another set if and when we need it. I mean, we don't need it right now, but hey, good to know we could. Day 153. I forgot to hit record at the beginning of the day, so I'm just putting it out there that I replaced my power system to my machines with MV instead of LV. And that's all that really transpired. Today was spent making the improved blast furnace. I would have ignored it, considering the fact it only allows you to automate the input of the steel components without you actually getting a faster steel smelting speed, but unfortunately not only does it block the arc furnace quest, but the arc furnace quest locks off an entire chapter, so we gotta do it. I tore down our blast furnace, mashed some steel plates, and crafted the reinforced blast bricks to make the improved blast furnace, which, may I say, massive waste of my time. Yeah, I don't like this thing. You spend 27 steel plates to make steel at the same speed you were doing before, but now it's hopper compatible. It's a real piece of garbage. Despite my disdain towards this waste of resources, I set up its chest in hoppers, then sleep this day away, dreaming of a world where the improved blast furnace actually was improved. Day 155. Okay, let's make this fermenter. I got all the bits, all the bobs, more crafting done for the same machine parts we've seen before, except for, you know, the iron sheet metal. I build that thing, powered it up, and mashed some carrots into ethanol. Listen. You can tell me it's ethanol. It looks like a substance I can't say here. Anyways, this completes both the fermenter and the ethanol quest, meaning we are quite literally only a couple steps away from completing this chapter. Only problem is we definitely need steel, so I spent the rest of the day and all of days 156 through 57 clearing the mountain, you know, while getting steel. A cathartic reprieve from the dead sprint of progress we've had. You'd think this gets old, but it's nice to take a moment to process and appreciate the work we've done so far. I mean, we cleared all the rubble from the first mountain mission. On top of that, our cube went from small setup to one you can see from pretty far away. We've come a long way already, and there's still lots of road left on this journey, and I'm hoping you'll stick around for it. Day 158. After basically segmenting the entire mountain for easy clearing later, I check our steel to see that it's almost done processing all of it, so we're just going to go ahead and start working on the last required machine. Speeding through a day of crafting, let's rattle off the pieces again. Steel frames, heavy engineering blocks, redstone engineering blocks, light engineering blocks, iron sheet metal, pipes. Quest done. I built a refinery, and like that, we can now process biofuel. Now to automate it. Aha! Bet you didn't think I was going to automate something this chapter. I get to crafting more fluid ducts and servos, placing down the pipes from our tanks to the inputs on the refinery, and we are now making biodiesel. Now to make a tank, which I get to pretty much at the start of day 159. Alright, now for the moment of truth. After goofing up and turning all my steel into rods! While waiting later, the tank is crafted. We plop it in front of the refinery, and with one bucket scoop, we did it! We complete- Wait, hold up. Shit! Yeah, I forgot about the arc furnace. We need that scarab quest because it pertains to the literal chapters right after this one. All adventuring quests, so if you know me, I'm less than thrilled, but fine! I create the electrode blueprint and crafted some graphite electrodes. I still didn't have enough for the arc furnace quest, so I went ahead and started the coke dust process at the start of day 160. After waiting on the coke dust, we press it into graphite dust, smelt it, and then we get the last piece of graphite needed to unlock the arc furnace Oh no. I don't think we can complete this quest this episode. Call me crazy, but it appears to me that the mod pack is expecting us to get the arc furnace later, because without a proper full setup of blast furnaces, I don't see how we're supposed to have this much. I'm not opposed to mass production. I've played GregTech New Horizons after all, but this is clearly a comeback when you can ore quintuple your iron and coal moment. That's okay. Look at all the progress we made. We flattened the mountain and chugged our way into the Applied Energistics and Mechanism chapter. Even if we aren't quite done with IE, I'd say being close is good enough. Though that begs the question of if we're gonna have to change how these episodes are labeled. It's my first playthrough, cut me some slack. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Your support and comments are super uplifting and keep me going. And of course, a special thanks to all of our YouTube members over the span of this playthrough. You guys help keep my lights on, and this would be way harder to do without you. I hope to keep entertaining you all in the future, and until next time, this has been the Bottom Dweller. I should probably get tested for black lung.